Hey guys, Anthony, 4x4 Diesel. We've got a replacement engine here. Yes, it's a 2007, if I remember correctly, 370k. Unfortunately, the owner didn't know about me and the correct information until now. Approximately 2 months ago, a cracked piston at 360,000 Ks. The engine has been replaced with one from the wreckers, and we know what they're like, unfortunately. If we had our time again, obviously things would have been different, but we're just going to have a look around and have a look at some of the typical sort of things that that we might find when somebody's done an engine replacement. It is part of a vehicle inspection, but we're going to really focus a lot on around the engine replacement because that is important. It's the engine as it came out of a vehicle, so a lot of what I've seen so far is actually not too bad. So we're just going to have a look around. You can see a bit of oil around the valve cover, and that's because, quite simply, it's the original valve cover and gasket most likely, or similar to that. And of course, added a catch can, didn't know about that information, but that's all right. That's easily rectified. But let's just have a look at this little badge here, because that's not a guarantee something. So that's their little stamp they've put on it. So you can maybe work out who did that and who didn't. Is that the fuel filter got added recently as well since the end? That was already there, was it? Okay, yep, cool. Okay, so just having a look around this side, you can see these are brittle, these plastic clips. Okay, you can see it was very old, 370k. So we're not going to blame them for that. It's just they probably should have said, hey, this is broken, we need to do something about it. We've only got a few of those left. You can't get them anymore. It's got the short SCV. You can see down there in the middle of the picture that on the back of the pump there. So that's something that will need to be rectified. A few clips and whatever that aren't connected, that depending how they're left, they could rub on the hoses and cause some damage there, and some more of those. You're going to get that sort of stuff with an engine replacement, unless it gets done in Sunshine or someone else we know that can put engines in. And you can see a little bit of oil there, so it could be the map filter leaking. Is the map filter even there? Let's just try and sneak under there and have a look. Yeah, I don't know how well you can see that, but that map filter is cracked. They've pushed the injector driver bracket is a bit bent over out of the way as well. Not a big deal, but that's normally sitting straight up and down. At some point that's been pushed around. So new map filter, a few clips and clamps. Looking down here, there's quite a bit of vibration from the engine mount, but looking down here, have a look at the engine mount. All right, I'm going to zoom in a little bit. Try and hold it still. Now see the bolt on the left, the head isn't all the way down like the one. See the one on the right? You can see probably, I'm going to estimate 5 millimeters of bolt sticking out. The one on the right there, the one on the left, see, you can see air gap under the nut. So either that bolt's still loose. We're going to have to reach down to that in a moment. We can't do that right now. But straight away, we've noticed things like that. And these are the sorts of things we're going to need to check. All the mounting, all the pipes, all the wires, all the clips that they're in position. Since the engine probably came out of a vehicle and had all the same manifolds and everything like that on it, it's kind of good news that they haven't had to unbolt all the components. I mean, there's more work involved in a brand new long motor, but of course, a lot more things can go wrong, and that's why it's important that it gets taken to somebody that really is going to take the care to make sure it's done right. So looking around here, it actually doesn't look too bad. So we'll raise it up on the horse and have a bit of a look around underneath and see what we can find. And obviously you could see something on the camera that I haven't seen yet, because I'm holding the camera in a different position to what my eyes are at the moment. Good news, like it's got the genuine hoses still, the original clamps. That's actually really good. Looks like the original radiator still. So it actually looks pretty good. And that's what happens when you've got a complete engine coming out of one vehicle into the other. A little thing that I'm a bit concerned about, he was told the engine's done 160,000 kilometers, but the readings on the injectors, for all the people that are on channel with me and watching all the videos, you know, 160,000 kilometers isn't usually going to have a load reading of around 22, 23. The injection volume is around 12 or 13, I believe. And of course, the main injection period quite high as well, which sort of says to me the engine's done, like you guys are probably having a guess as well by now, all the regulars, maybe 2 or 250,000 Ks or even more, not 160K. But we don't know that for sure, so that's just we're just thinking out loud. All right, let's raise it up and have a look underneath and see what we can find. All right, let's have a quick look underneath and run through a few things we've seen, and there's a few things that we haven't checked yet, but it's just what we can fit in a video. Look at these, 370,000 K original drive shafts, and they're looking good. That's why I say use genuine. If you replace these at 250, 300, 400, 500, yep, it might be a bit dearer, 600 bucks each or whatever they might be. They've gone up a bit, but you know you're going to get another 300,000 or 400,000 Ks out of them. The genuine drive shafts are awesome and they don't break. Okay, the usual rack boot sweat, 370,000. So if yours is a bit sweaty at 100,000 or 200,000, don't waste your money. Don't worry about it, because you can see what it looks like at nearly 400,000. No real difference. Who cares, right? Normal bit of sweat on the tie rod ends, the upper ball joint, usual. This has got the original suspension. How good is the original Toyota suspension? Well, it's flogged off its head, but it's still going. Now, there's a bit of oil here, so we're going to cover that. A few things going on there. There's only a really tiny bit of oil on the bottom of the turbo. That's not something to worry about. That's why it's important to watch all the videos so you know what to worry about and what not to worry about. And I say don't worry, because worry doesn't fix anything. If you can do something about it, do it. And if you can't, don't worry about it, because you can't do anything anyway, right? Make a decision, fix it or don't fix it. There's a couple of things going on. I haven't done heaps of engines, so I'm not sure. But if you look at, see that bottom bolt there, this long one here, right? See how the other end sticks through? I don't think that's normal. And look up here, see this one here? If I put my finger in the other end around that end, there's a bit of a hole there. So I suspect there's a couple of shorter bolts. Maybe these ones are the longer ones that need to come out and go back in up there. Maybe they need to be swapped around, something like that. But our engine swap out expert, and that's Johnny, he'll know all about it. He'll look at these clamps and go, yeah, that's right, or that's wrong. Oh, that doesn't go that way. And he'll sort it all out, right? Now, there's a bit of oil here, and a lot of people already know what that is, because you can see it's wetter around this side. So, you know, if we work our way up towards that plug, right, you know, the plug that we've mentioned in heaps of videos, and all the regulars know all about it because they've seen it heaps of times, and all the other people, they go on our Facebook groups and they go, hey, I've got an oil leak. And about dozens of people put up the link to the video that shows them what the oil leak is, right? So you replace the O-ring and that plug there. It doesn't take too long, so it's a pretty cheap fix, and that'll fix up all that oil there, and we'll give it a good clean up. So these are the sorts, and that'll get rid of this. Up here, probably a new sump plug washer. You can see how squashed out that original one is. That's why it's leaking. It's been well overused, well over tightened. Underneath here, we haven't seen too much as far as changing the engine causing any issues. It's a typical 370,000 Ks. There's a few clips and clamps up on the transmission there. You might be able to see one up there. See that clip up there is not on. So we need Johnny, our engine change-out expert, to go over this vehicle and check all these clips and clamps are in the right place, and all the breathers and that sort of thing. If we have a look around this side, there was another one. You can see that plastic tab up there. It's just sort of floating around. Obviously, that's meant to be clipped in somewhere, right? So we need, all these things need to be checked. It needs to be gone over, because obviously we didn't put the engine in. But from underneath, without taking the bash plates off, we can't see a lot. With the engine mounts, there's some bolts that have been put in wrong and all that sort of thing. The engine mounts have got the vibration. They need to be replaced. So we're not going to waste time on that. The engine's not going to fall out. But when the engine mounts get replaced, Johnny, once again, the expert on changing the engine mounts, will put all the bolts around the right way, because that's what he does. He'll fix everything up. Okay, so let's do a quick run down the vehicle. That covers around the engine, the bit of oil. It's had an auto service or something at some stage, because you can see the cork gasket in there. It's not the normal genuine Toyota gasket, which means it's probably got an aftermarket filter. So for my liking, I'd drop it again and put a genuine filter and gasket and never take it off again, because it should have never been removed, unless it needed to for something, but I doubt it. It's probably just, you know, an auto service type situation at some stage. It's been enough lubrication on the drive shafts. That's good. No leak at the transfer case. This usual bit of oil there, maybe not a big deal, nothing to worry about, but it could have just blown back from the transmission, because that pan gasket, because it's the cork's probably squashed and leaking a bit as well. I haven't given all the drive shafts and bearings a check yet, but we'll get to that. It's done quite a few Ks, so it's something that could happen. But I noticed the rear brakes, I'm going to try and get in there a little bit sideways, but the rear brakes are getting a little bit low, particularly that inner pad there. We're going to try and have a better look at the other side, but see the usual fuel hose. See all the dirt stuck to it? That's because of the fuel leak that it has. It must be weeping out, and then all the dust sticks to it. It's been like that sometimes. So replace that fuel hose. If I remember, I'll show you the part number at the end of the video. You can go get one at your local dealer or wherever you want to get it from, or we keep them in stock. That's why I'll show you the number. But we'll just have a quick look at these pads over this side, because I reckon they're a bit lower. This is the quick, easy way to check pads. I'm going to sort of try and slide the camera in there, and hopefully it focuses up. You can see the rotor there. See, I'm moving the rotor. And then you can see the backing plate, and there's not much lining left in between, less than 1 millimeter. So those rear pads are gone. They're pretty well overdue for replacement, really. It needs rear pads pretty soon. The tyres are wearing a little bit on the inside, a little bit feathered. So that's going to wear the KO2s prematurely. Same on the outside. Probably due to the old original suspension, not wheel alignment, because it's even on both sides. See there and there. That's not a wheel alignment issue, most likely. It's most likely the shock is not controlling the tyre, keeping on in contact with the road can cause a lot of that sort of wear we've seen. So now I need to use my hands and go and check all the drive shafts and wheel bearings and that sort of thing, and they'll probably be okay. If there's something else to see, I will show you. Front pads actually look all right. They're about 50% still. So I think that completes this video of what we're going to fit in there. So it's a bada bing, bada boom. Subscribe, turn the bell on, hit the like button if you learnt something. I hope you like it. Catch you on the next one, guys. See ya. Okay, there's 3 other things we've found, so I'm going to try and demonstrate for you. 370,000 Ks, remember. So when I try and move the wheel, checking for play. Can you hear that bit of a noise? I don't know if you can hear it, but it's the play. Not at the tyre end here, but on the inside, the ball joint, the inner rack end, there's a ball there. If you grab the tyre from the front or the rear, I've felt it and checked that the movement's definitely coming from the inner ball joint. It's not common, it doesn't happen on many vehicles, but it happens on, let's say, it happens on quite a few 120s. We're talking about a very low percentage, mate, you know. Once they get higher in Ks usually, and once it's got a little bit of play in it, it can stay the same for a very long time. So it's not an urgent repair. Use the genuine rack ends. When you do it, you replace the boot at the same time is the way to do it. You might even replace the tyre end maybe. Or, you know, there's no point really, there's nothing wrong with it. And check top to bottom as well to make sure it's not in the bearing, which in this case it's not. Okay, the last thing I was going to show you is the lower control arms at 370,000 Ks, so you can get an idea how long they can last. Have a look at that. You can see the split. So that, don't worry about up beyond, let me just sort of point out. Don't worry about up here. That's not meant to have anything. Don't worry about, where's the other side? Up here. Don't worry about that. It's just from here to here, right? So it's about an inch of rubber, and you can see the split. If you have a look from the left side, along here, it comes to about there. You can see there's a bit of twistage going on at the moment. There's a bit of a split maybe from this side as well. It's actually quite hard. It's actually, no, it's not split. So this one, it's only actually split about 30 to 40% of the way, the same way we see a lot of them. So this certainly isn't urgent either, but it's something that when all the important maintenance is up to date, like injectors and all these other little bits and pieces. So that one, not too bad. It's got the split. So there's no split at the left side. It's just a little bit twisted at the moment because it's on the hoist, but the split's at the right side. It's not too bad. Let's have a look at this front one. Again, they've been worked around speed humps for 370,000 Ks. This one is starting to get a bit ripped up. It's not the end of the world. It's not that I've seen worse, believe it or not. I've seen some really bad ones. So don't go and replace your arms or your bushes unnecessarily, because you're going to see a lot of that wear and tear black, because every time you hit the brakes and hit the speed hump, this bush is absolutely getting hammered and pushed around quite a lot. Yep, I thought we were done as well. We're nearly done. I just want to give you a bit more information because it's going to save you some more money on tyre wear. And I'm looking at the tyre wear on these KO2s. I need to get this light coming. Is that on or not? That's not on, is it? No, we're in there. That's better. Light on. Okay, so then I don't have to hold the other light. So the tyre wear in the middle here is perfectly good, but on the edge, it's kind of getting feathered on the edges. So I just want to go into a little bit about why that wear's happening. The rear's a little bit like that because obviously it's been on the front. The tyres have been rotated. I can see that because they don't wear like that on the rear. This tyre's looking a lot better than over that side, right? It's a little bit feathered on the edges, but not as bad. So there's going to be about 3 contributing factors here. The wheel alignment's probably fine. The tyre in the middle's good. And there's even wear on both sides. So like I said earlier, the suspension, because it's not controlling, keeping the tyre in good contact with the road, there'll be a little bit of that. Bushes being a little bit worn, they'll be a slight contributor, but not much either. And the other contributor, the biggest one probably, and that's why this side is worse, is that play in that arm that we demonstrated in that ball joint there. So all it's going to do it's going to drive a little bit more sloppy and it's going to wear the tyres a little bit on the edges. So I think, you know, we'll just quickly say it again, the safety triangle, your tyres is what grips to the road. Your brakes is what stops, but your tyres and your brakes can't work if your tyre isn't making good contact with the road, okay? So the shock absorber is what stops the spring. Everybody knows a spring, boing, boing, boing. The shock absorber is what needs to stop the spring doing the bouncing and get this tyre back in contact with the road. Now, another important factor for everybody that hung around to the end, that always hangs around till the end, so they probably already know this by now. A lot of people complain about tyres and, oh, they get really slippery in the wet and I don't really like them and all that sort of thing. I don't like those. I hate those KO2s. That's fine. And some of the reason why would be partly because obviously you can see it's an off-road tread. It's not going to be as good as a road pattern. But once the tyres become worn like this, instead of having that much traction on the road, the width of the screen, you maybe got about this much. So maybe half, because of this feathered wear. A lot of this isn't making contact with the road anymore on the inside and the outside. So you reduce down to this, and then of course you haven't got anything in between. Sometimes they can be a little bit feathered as well. See the way the wear of the tyre is. That's why tyre rotation is important. How often you do it is in other videos, and it depends on your use, what you want to do. But a few things to think about, a few little bonus add-ons making it a bit longer. Thanks for watching, catcher. Bada bing, bada boom, all right?